The Boston Celtics take down the Indiana Pacers 155 to 104. That's all coming up next here on Green with Envy. What up, what up, what up? Welcome into another edition of Green with Envy Morning Box Score edition here. And this is a true morning box score. As always, this is your boy Will Weir checking in. How you doing? How you living? Joining me today, hot off the presses from his 10 takeaways from Celtics blog. It's my guy, Adam Taylor. How you doing, Adam?
Dude, I haven't even got dressed yet. I'm still in my PJs. It's nearly 2 p.m. in the afternoon. I woke up, watched the game, had some breakfast, watched it again, smashed the takeaways, flowed straight from that into here. I'm living life, dude. 155 to 104. The Celtics, what I like to call decimated them. They bullied the shit out of the Indiana Pacers, and at times it felt unfair.
Bro, you want to know a secret? I'm always in my PJs. I never change out of my PJs. That is my number one favorite thing about my entire work life being remote is that basically roll out of bed, brush my teeth, get some coffee. I'm in my office. It's one of the greatest things that you can do. So anytime you see me in a hoodie, it's either gym shorts or sweatpants underneath this desk right now. Or is it? No, I'm just playing. Yeah, there is something on underneath this desk right now, but basically working in my pajamas 24/7 is a fantastic feeling. It's like I said, maybe my favorite part of the entire remote lifestyle that exists now.
You see, I think for me, and this goes back to like the difference in school systems, right? Like we were heavily like in the UK, you have to wear a school uniform, and then
Mhm.
a lot of the jobs I've worked at have been uniforms, like or shirt and tie or shirt and slacks or whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I try and make the most of being able to wear what I want while working from home, and I like to kind of get dressed because I have to do the school run. Maybe I got to run to the store for whatever. So I like to just be like, dude, let me just put on this Vans top, or let me go put on these pair of jeans that I really like and I'm wearing what I want instead of having to wear a uniform. But so when I'm wearing PJs at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm like, dude, I'm really slumming it today. I need to figure this. You know what I mean? I need to sort my life out real quick. My wife's
I
off
mean,
today.
pre-remote life, that's pretty similar to what it is over here. I mean, I did go to public high school where you could wear whatever, but like there are a lot of schools in the US that are, strict uniform based. And then every job I've had before going fully remote, there was always some form, even if it wasn't a strict, you must wear, X, Y, or Z. It was like business casual, business professional. When I worked in sports for a little bit at the University of Texas, that was probably the strictest they tried to do, and I actually even pushed back. I led like a whole I led a whole internal revolt against them trying to make us wear suits all the time because I was like, bro, it's Austin, Texas. All you dudes are coming from like, places up north where you worked for, or places around professional sports where you worked. And like, there's a fall season, a winter season. It's summer down here all year. I ain't wearing a suit in, 100-degree August heat. So I led like an entire like internal office revolt against the dress code. But to your point, like the switch in being able to wear what you want and what makes you feel good, which for me, like I like wearing athleisure wear and wearing just very comfortable clothing. So being able to do that for the last, since 2020, that has been a revelation for me. And like I said, it's a big part of my day to day is making sure that your boy is comfortable over here.
As an anti-conformist, I am very happy to hear you led a revolt against conformity. The one thing that everybody moans about to me about that bothers my wife, it frustrates my daughter is if you're in a position of power, I instantly have an issue with you because I'm not conforming to what you say. So the fact that you led a revolt really fits well with me, man. But yeah, I need to be dressed. I need to feel
Yeah,
like
they tried to I'll tell you what, man, at that job, they also tried to go kinda like do you know, like, the New York Yankees have a policy where they still have it in place, their players can't have facial hair in fucking 2023, that's still a thing that they employ, and so a lot of sports organizations and it's changing, but there were a lot, like, 6, 7, 8 years ago that used to feel that same way about their staff. They all got to be clean shaven. And dude, for me, I haven't been clean shaven since I was 12. So I was like, I don't know. I didn't sign up for this shit. So I literally had to talk to my director of ticket operations and go through this whole thing about like, if you want me to, I kind of gave him I forget if it's Jerry Rice or Deion Sanders, but look good, feel good, play good. And that's basically the kind of the speech that I gave him about like, yo, if you make me shave, I'm not gonna feel like me. If you want me to be my best, you got to let me feel like me, and I'll keep it clean, but I can't be shaving this whole thing.
Dude, I don't think I've not had facial hair since the same like you since like 12. I mean, when I was trying to look good, when like you're younger and your appearance, like my appearance, I don't give a fuck what I look like anymore, dude. Whatever. Like I want to, but like I used to have a soap patch, just that one bit there, just like the strip,
Yeah.
and then a bit of a goatee. And then
Yep.
over the time, like I've become a man, so I'm just like
Same. I've
just
got the
let it
full beard.
grow.
I
Yeah,
used to be more of like the closed off, like Clay Thompson goatee
yeah, dude.
almost, you know?
Like, just I used to just have the button bit, and like obviously when I was working in a building, my hair would always be cut. This would be trimmed nice, or it would be long and groomed. Now I'm just like, dude, I ain't had a haircut in 8 weeks. I haven't had a beard trim in like 12 weeks. Who cares? I leave the house for 40 minutes a day, an
But you
hour
know
and
what, man? You still look good.
I mean, I try. It's the English accent. It makes everything sound like it's better.
It helps. It helps. Well, I think we've talked long enough about facial hair and leading office revolts. You know what? It was a beatdown last night, but it's still worth talking about. So let's jump into it and let's hit up the morning box score. Celtics 155, Indiana Pacers 104. Starting with the Pacers, and I got to be honest with you, Adam, we'll talk about it here in just a second. First half, this team shot 50% and was still down 20 plus after the first half. It was a really tough night to be without your best player. No Tyrese Halliburton in this one. So for the Pacers, Andrew Nemhard had 14 points, but only on 6 of 17 shooting. Obi Toppin had 11 points, 8 points for Benedict Mathurin, 18 points for TJ McConnell off the bench, who got some significant extended run based on the way this played out. But ultimately, there really just wasn't much the Pacers could ever really do in this one from start to finish, as it was just all Celtics. Let's go over to the massive highlights that come from the Boston Celtics. Of course, it all starts with Jason Tatum, who was going bananas. 30 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, 9 of 10 from the free throw line, 3 of 5 from the field, 9 of 15 overall. Let's take a check at the stock market from last night. Derek White, 7 of 10 from the field, 4 of 7 from 3, looking extremely confident, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 18 points on the night. His co-partner in crime, Drew Holiday, 6 of 9 from the field, 3 of 4 from the three-point line, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 block. So only 1 block on the stock exchange market last night, but 15 points for Drew Holiday, 13 for Kristaps Porzingis, 16.7 rebounds for Jaylen Brown, and even the bench got into the mix, which wasn't really a concern, but was the one somewhat concern you could try to find with this team. 17 points for Sam Hauser, who really got it going from 3-point range, 5 of 6, and then preseason P decided to show up here in the regular season. 15 points, 9 assists, 4 rebounds off the bench for Peyton Pritchard. Adam, you just wrapped up and sent out your 10 takeaways. What was the number one thing from this decimation, as you put it, last night? What was the number one takeaway that you had to lead off your article?
Then I messed up the headline. I gave it a simple headline like running it up because it was a high score. It should have been the beatdown in Beantown. Um,
Like that.
I try not to put my takeaways in order of importance. Like I just do them in kind of an order that I think flows well. So like I'll start with offense, flow into like some actions, then start looking at defense, and then anything else that kind of mops up or wraps it up. So like one of the things that I really kind of wanted to touch on was Jason Tatum's quiet 30, because that's been
I like
something.
this. This is the opposite of my dirty 30, the quiet
The
30. I like
quiet
this.
fairly, because this is something that he's been doing all season. We're 4 games in, so all season should definitely be in air quotes. But if you look at it, like, look, man, he's averaging 29.8 points per game over 4 games. So a smidge under 30 a game. He hasn't had a takeover game. He hasn't had a game where you're like, yo, this was a Jason Tatum game. Those games aren't 30-point games anymore. That's for the next tier of player below him. His big games are a Jason Tatum game is 45, 50. That's when you know it's been like a Jason Tatum takeover. A quiet 30 has become the very, very average, an average Jason Tatum night, 25 to 34 points a night, get his rebounds in, do a little bit of work as an assist. I think that this is just another, like, he's taken that next step, right? With the post up play that he's
Mhm.
doing, with the attacking the rim, everything that he's doing on the interior, and the way that he's picking his spots better. There was one play I shared in the takeaways where I'm not sure if it was Neesmith guarding him on the perimeter. I can't remember. It might have been Neesmith healed, somebody like that. Like not a primary defender, but also not a scrub of a defender. Um, and generally, a year ago, 2 years ago, Tatum goes into a dribble, 1, 2, 3 through the legs, swinging behind the back, sidestep free. And that's how it's going to go because he's got that mismatch. They're not going to be able to get a hand in his face or close it. Not this time, no. Goes one, does the same dribble move, that's kind of like his little signature tween, cross, cross, behind the back, gets the bite, and then drives, bang, straight, finishes with a nice up and under reverse. It's just been a different mindset from him, and it is a quiet 30. He
Yeah,
shot 9
I
of
I'm
15.
loving this idea of the quiet 30 and the dirty 30, which for those of you listening, just to remember, the dirty 30 is kind of those games where you kind of fight your way, but at the end of the day, this is the Jason Tatum area that he lives in where, man, it didn't feel like a good Jason Tatum game. Wait, what was that? He ended up with 31 points and 10 rebounds. That's kind of the dirty 30. And that usually involves getting to the line a bunch and really kind of, fighting your way to get to that 30, but that's your new baseline. This is the inverse of that, what Adam's talking about, where this is just what you expect, right? And this was you quiet but casual 30, right? This is a
Just running the
casual
mill,
30.
running the mill,
Run of
a
the mill.
standard
Run of
Jason
the mill.
Tatum game.
This is Jason Tatum. This is just Jason Tatum showed up for work today. This is Jason Tatum showed up for work today and did the bare minimum. He got 30 points because that is the standard that he set.
This is the
And
office
then
equivalent of I took 4 poops in an 8-hour shift.
exactly. You bided your time. You went to the snack room. You made the conversation at the coffee maker or the bubbler. There you go. I got you, Adam. Over at the bubbler, just to go kind of like show your face. Like, yeah, he was there. He put in some work, but he did the bare minimum. But the bare minimum for Jason Tatum these days is a lot different. It's that superstar level, 9 of 15, efficient work, 9 of 10, 30 points, only played 26 minutes. So this is the point that you're kind of making here, Adam. This is in 26 minutes and 34 seconds of work. If this man played his normal, 35 minutes, another 8 to 9 minutes in this game, this is easily a 40, 45 point game
And then it's a
for
quiet
Jason
40,
Tatum.
quiet 45, because
Right,
it's like
right.
when I think of like a big game for Tatum, like there's periods of dominance there. There's periods where it's like, yo, Tatum can't miss. Nobody's stopping him. They're running everything through him because
Mm-hmm.
he's put them on his back. The Celtics are a backpack and Tatum, or if we want to go Kyrie Irving, Jason Tatum is the tortoise and the Celtics are the back just wandering through space. I'm completely confident we will see those games this year. I think there'll be times
Mm-hmm.
where, especially against bigger opponents, where Tatum does kind of evolve into the superstar
Yeah.
version of himself, but he doesn't need to be that guy. And then
And
this is
that's
when
and that's the thing. This starting five, man, it's crazy, right? Like I know, like I said, we've talked on the last couple of pods, and just mostly because it's hard to when you have a show where you're gonna run 2 3 episodes a week, hard to come on here and just be like, hey man, this team's fucking awesome. Nothing to talk about. This team is great. So, we've even said like, how do we feel about this bench? The starting five, starting six, as they want to try and act like, is so great. What about the bench? Bench shows up last night. Everybody showed up last night. But you look at this starting five, and to your point of Jason Tatum doesn't have to go above and beyond every single game, which is an extreme luxury. I just want to read this out here. Taylor Snow tweeted this out earlier today, just highlighting some of the starting fives early on here in the season. And he used specifically Boston, Denver, Milwaukee, Golden State, and the Lakers. 5 teams that are generally considered to be championship contenders and what their net rating is thus far this season. I'm going to give you all the other 4 teams. Then I'll give you the Celtics here. Denver, plus 2.7 with their championship winning starting five. Milwaukee, minus 3.6, which, by the way, got beat down in Toronto last night. Golden State, minus 10, although we know that they have a long track record of bouncing back. But nevertheless, Los Angeles Lakers, minus 22. The Celtics, with Derek White, Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Kristaps Porzingis, plus 37.3. like you said, Adam, we always, all season long, small sample size, yada yada yada. We all know it's only a couple of games, but this starting five has just been off the charts to start. And if you're a Celtics fan, there's not much more you could want to see out of this starting five and the way they all complement and balance each other through these first four games.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's playing a very specific role, but a very broad role at the same time. So they are intertwining and interlinking with what they're doing. And what I mean by that is you've got Drew Holiday as a proper ball handler, but then he'll flow into being more off ball because Derek White's now operating as a ball handler. You have Jaylen Brown running more post ups. We saw him go to the post a few times against Indiana. But overall, Brown isn't really initiating offense this season. He's been used more of a scorer / play finisher. His touches are down from last season. Again, very small sample size, 4 games, but we're talking roughly 8 touches a game less. Derek White is above him in touches per game. Drew Holiday is just below him, and I think that will
One thing
go
I
up a
will
little
note
bit.
about that, Adam, none of the starters have played the fourth quarter in either of the last 2 games. So
Well,
that's
this
also
is
going to
true.
shift some of
This
the
is going
stats
to
as well,
shift it.
right?
But when you look at touches, you look at usage for offense, you look at touches for playmaking, right?
Right.
So Brown has had the ball in his hands a little bit less, but he's having a similar usage rate. So they're still putting him in positions to score. They're just saying, hey, when you do have the ball, you can bring it up the court, you can do what you need to do, but we want you looking at that rim and we want you doing what you need to do in the mid range and so forth. Porzingis, he's shown a little bit of passing chops, but overall, there's a lot of crossover, but a lot of defined roles at the same time. You know what I mean? I think the only
Yeah.
guy with true freedom here is Tatum, and that's
Yeah.
what you'd expect from a superstar. Because
Especially
Tatum,
because he's so vital at all 3 levels, right?
exactly,
Like
because I
he's going
genuinely
to be
do
the
have
connector in
Tatum as a
that sense.
superstar. I don't think there's many superstars in the NBA. I think 5, maybe 6, 7, but those guys do get complete freedom within a
Mhm.
system to impact it the way they need to impact it or find their
Yeah.
rhythm the way they need to. I think Tatum's there, and if he
Yeah.
wasn't, he is now.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I'm very big on we overuse the term superstar. There's really about 5 to 7 each year that truly exist. But one thing that's come up a couple times, and I wonder if I don't know, I haven't had it. You just literally put up the takeaways before we hopped on, so I haven't had a chance to read them yet. But I am curious to know, did you hit on that? And this has been a very big talking point throughout the season is kind of the shot variance that this team is promoting versus the, just being reliant on the 3-point ball last year. And a big part of that has been operating more out of the post to open up other areas of the game. And you've mentioned it a couple times in some of the conversation that we're having here. Is that something that you've noticed more, or what have you noticed about the Celtics operating more out of the post to open up other parts of the offense?
Yeah, I mean, I've touched on it in each of the takeaways. I haven't done a deep dive. I feel like that'll be a separate analysis, and I want at least 10 to 20 games of sample size before I really even consider exploring that in depth, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I pull clips from every game, so I'll have a repository of film to go to as well. But yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like the post ups, the post entry passes are a lot bigger now. The Celtics opened up this game. I've got it wrote down here actually, so let me read it out. Their opening play was an exit screen followed by an elbow dribble handoff that ended up with a post entry for Drew Holiday
Mhm.
on the block, right? They're making a conscious effort to get the ball inside, to get the ball on the post. Drew Holiday is a fantastic post player. Jason Tatum is exceptionally gifted and can play at the post whenever he needs to. Brown's got that fadeaway and that turnaround jumper. He's also very strong, can bully his way towards the rim if he needs to, can escape off a sidestep and then hit a fadeaway in the midi. Kristaps Porzingis just towers over most people. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, does and Al Horford for the majority of his career was a post player. So your top
Mhm.
6, oh sorry, and Derek White can, I think he's probably the lowest out of them 6 to play in the post, but
For
he could
sure.
facilitate out of there for sure. I haven't seen any grenade actions yet. I'm dying to start seeing grenades where it's but other than that, I think that post entries make sense because of how much playmaking there is off that post from different guys and how much scoring's there. And it has opened up a ton because obviously certain guys are drawing doubles in the post, and that's leaving shooters open. Other
Yeah.
guys are getting the ball in the post, and then there's an off ball screen or a back screen / rip screen to get guys cutting down towards the rim. And now there's an easy pass to make. And then obviously we've also had some great like swing passes off Porzingis that can just see over the defense. it's definitely been, in my opinion, it's definitely been a focus point, but so has attacking off the rip through, so has like splitting the defense and getting to the rim. It's just an increased amount of pressure within that 4 to 8 feet range from the basket, and then allowing that to generate rotations that create threes. I don't know. How are you seeing it? Are you seeing it similar?
I mean, for me, I mean, because honestly, I like the way that you can break it down from those different angles. Helps me kind of contextualize what I see out there, right? Because for me, it's just the shot variance is incredibly noticeable. Where last year we would come on here, and I think I said this on the last podcast, we could basically, without watching the game, we could just go check the 3-point line, and we can probably tell you more or less what happened in that game, right? And now, I mean, even in the first two games in which the Celtics played, those two competitive games against the Knicks and Heat, they lost the 3-point line by a large margin in both of those games and still found ways to beat playoff teams. And then, of course, you see these games against the Wizards and Pacers where it's an annihilation from the first quarter on, and they just are able to steamroll that momentum. So, I mean, I think for me, it's just the way that and I was thinking about this last night, the part that is probably the most beautiful about those Celtics top six rotation guys, and this applies defensively as well, but the fact that you have two combo guards, Drew Holiday and Derek White, you have two wings, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and you've got two bigs, Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford. And the fact that you can create out of those six, you can create so many different combinations of lineups just within those six that give you diversity for what you're looking for, whether it's on the offensive or defensive side, depending on how, if you want to go two guards, two wings, and a big, two guards, one wing, two bigs, two wings, one guard, two big, whatever it might be. And then you can switch what those wings are or what those bigs are and what you're trying to do, who you're running the offense through, whether you're going through the post, whether you're running more of that dribble handoff that we saw with Kristaps Porzingis several times last night. There's so many different ways that this team can run. And, we talked a lot about last year about having versatility. I think last year we almost fooled ourselves into feeling like we were a versatile team because the ingredients to the recipe, I think, were there to be a versatile team. But I don't think that's actually what that team was, especially when we saw late in games and you saw the way that the breakdowns would be the same issues over and over again that would happen. I think right now you're seeing the foundation of what this team can be and it's only going to get better, right? We're 4 games into this experiment. Like, Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis are 4 games in to playing with all these other guys right now. So there's only room to improve, understand each other better. And I think that's where, this team is going to another level, that if you have these 6 guys, it is really scary to think about what this looks like now in game 4 versus what this might look like come, say, game 60, when they've got a couple months of getting to know one another underneath their belt.
Yeah, because there's evolutions that are bound to happen. And one thing that I like is, and I kind of alluded to this in the takeaways, is with the way they're playing, it feels like they're playing a little bit of cat and mouse. So some of the things that they're doing in 2 games, they completely move away from in a third game because as you said, you've got so many lineup combinations. I like to think of it like a bike lock, right? The little locks you get for your bike.
Yeah.
And there's only 4 numbers, but the combinations that you can create out of those 4
The
numbers
permutations you can make out of it.
there we go, are so like
My
large.
coffee's kicking in here. That's
There we
that's
go,
why
dude.
I'm getting a little bit smarter, a little minute by minute.
I'm in X's and O's mode right now, but like that's enough to keep something secure. Right now, you're doing this with 6, so the combinations that you can do are vast. But it's also the same with what you can do schematically. So if anyone's been like following my social media at all, I've been quite quiet, but I've been a little bit. I've posted some stuff. First few games, the Celtics ran a bunch of empty corner stuff. Just whatever side of the floor they were on, they were getting somebody out of the corner and then attacking the space that is created by not having a low guy defending the corner. So they come into this game against Indiana. Indiana were probably thinking, well, that every game their pick and roll is based around having an empty side. We'll defend. We'll build for that. Carlisle's a really good coach, got a great level of experience in the league. He's definitely going to have come up with a game plan for that. So what did the Celtics do? They leave somebody in the corner this time and start running pin downs with the corner guy curling off and then feeding the curler around the elbow, around the nail, towards the mid block, and just blowing the defense wide open because it just wasn't designed for that. You mentioned as well the Kristaps Porzingis handoffs. They ran a ton of delay.
Yeah.
which, a big man, for anyone that's not familiar with delays, just you've got a big man, in this instance, Porzingis or Horford, at the very top of the perimeter. You've got your other four guys spaced around the 3-point line. It's just a fancy way of saying the big man's got the ball, no one's inside, delay. They ran a lot of that and they created actions off of that. They did one where they had Horford in the delay and then they set double pin downs on either corner and got both sides to curl into the paint. Defense was like, what the hell is going on? These guys don't run. For the first 3 games, they haven't attacked out of the corners at all. They've actually preferred having no one there. We've built a whole game plan around this. And then
Mm-hmm.
Joe Mazzulla just puts a different combination together along with his coaching staff. And it's just almost impossible to guard when your entire game plan, the scouting report that's led up to this, didn't have information on these players being part of the team's, scheme. It was just completely new. And I think that's why, if you go and look at some of the stuff I'm going to share, or the takeaways, or like some of the videos I can run now, that's why the defense was so blown open every time they ran a
Yeah.
curl out of the corner, because they just didn't prepare for that, and it wasn't something they were expecting to happen.
It also helps that Indiana's not necessarily known for their defense with this
Yeah, I mean, it
particular
does, but I
roster.
mean,
That definitely
there's
helps.
being beat, and then there's being blown wide open.
Yeah,
Do you know what I
and
mean? And they were blown wide open.
this was wide open. I mean, 70 the fact that the Celtics scored 75 points in the first half and actually outdid themselves in the second half with an 80-point second half. I mean, that tells you a lot about, how quickly in pretty much all night how this game got out of hand, dropping 155 points. I don't care who you're playing. It's an NBA game. That is a lot of points to score. Celtics now 4-0 on the season. I got a little excited last night. I errantly tweeted out they're the last undefeated team. That is actually not true. There is one remaining on there, the last undefeated team in the Eastern Conference. Adam, do you know the other undefeated team that still remains out west?
Okay, so Phoenix has lost 2. Golden State lost to Phoenix on opening night. The Lakers have lost to the Warriors, if I remember correctly. The Spurs have lost 2. The Trailblazers have lost. The Rockets have lost. Are the Nuggets undefeated, or have the Nuggets lost? I
So the
haven't been.
Nuggets lost last night, and this is what got me a little
Okay, so I haven't
excited
caught up
to
with
to
today's
pronounce the
games yet.
Celtics as the last undefeated team.
Oh,
The last undefeated team that, aside from the Celtics, that exists out west, it's your Grant Williams-led Dallas Mavericks. Of
and
course,
did you see
Luka
Doncic
Doncic, but
crediting credit? Did you see Luca crediting Grant for the way their defense has been since he came?
I did not, but I know that I owe that entire team a massive apology. Greg and I did our over-unders podcast a couple weeks ago, right before the season started, and we both, after watching, and this again proves why preseason just literally means nothing. You got to throw out every fucking thing from preseason. They lost to Real Madrid. They were getting worked by the Minnesota Timberwolves, like to the point where I was like, this is the team that they're rolling out. And I think their over under was like 43.5, and they still might end up being close, but I was pretty defiant. I was like, this is going to be an under 500 team. Lo and behold, them and the Celtics, last 2 undefeated teams that still remain.
Yeah, I like Derek Lively. I think he was a good pickup in the draft. Luca's recent comments, I think it
Luka's
was
been
from
going bananas in the beginning of
bananas,
the
dude.
season.
But his recent comments about like Grant coming in, setting the tone defensively, being the guy that's kind of the defensive leader, the guy that's used like vocal, organizes where everyone's going to be. Luca's like, yo, Grant's revolutionized the way we play defense. But this is a guy that everybody was happy to see leave. You know what I mean? Oh, he sucks. He had a bad stretch. He
Hey,
sucks.
we never felt that way on this show, so I'm happy for
I'm
Grant.
just
We
taking
were
shots.
always defenders. Yeah, we were always defenders of Grant. And I think, obviously there's a vocal minority that, to be honest, it might even not have been a minority. There's
I
a lot of
think it
people
was a
that felt that
50-50
way
split,
about.
you know.
Yeah, it was pretty split with Grant, to be 100% honest. But I'm happy for Grant to do well in Dallas. I got to go living out here in Texas. I got to make sure I check out a game with Grant and Luka. But before we wrap this up, Adam, I do want to get your thoughts here. It's been a minute since we hopped on, and it's funny, the big trade that really wasn't a big trade that went through the other day. I wanted to touch on that here, and that, of course, is going to be James Harden going from the Philadelphia Sixers to the Los Angeles Clippers in return for some draft picks and Terrence Mann. Nope, they didn't get Terrence Mann. Sorry. And Norm Powell. Nope, they didn't get Norm Powell. Sorry. For Marcus Morris, Nicholas Batum, KJ Martin, and I believe there's one other person I'm missing right
Roker.
now. and Robert Covington makes his Robert Covington, the man who has found his way back to the process after all these years being a part of that original process team, now finds his way back to the Philadelphia 76ers. Adam, I wanted to get your thoughts on this, and let's focus on the 76ers portion of this just for a second, because that will most readily impact the Celtics. But what were your thoughts on this move from the Sixers, finally ending this James Harden saga, which, to be honest, I think it made such little waves because everyone is so over all of the James Harden bullshit.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the biggest things was they lowered their asking price. If you look at the reporting, the front office were kind of like ownership kind of said to Morey, like, no, you trade him now. They started the season pretty well. Tyrese Maxey has
Player
been
of the
El
week.
Fuego, dude, just on fire.
He's going to be an all-star this year, by the way,
Yeah,
100%.
and he's
Now
ready
that
to
now that
step
Harden's
into a
out the
star
way,
role.
he's a guaranteed all-star.
And he's ready to step into that star role, into being the primary ball handler. And I think he actually fits better with Embiid because of his acceleration, his like the rim pressure that he provides, and just he's more willing to get off the ball and give it to Embiid than what Harden would have been. Harden was at this stage, he was an elite playmaker, but he wasn't the
But he's
scoring
not even happy
maestro.
doing that. He was complaining about that.
It's like, hey, I'm really good at it, but I want to be leading the team. So I think that, yeah, they didn't get Terrence Mann. They didn't get what they wanted, but they can flip some of these pieces. You know, Morris is reliable. He can get you buckets. Rocco can give you some wing defense. Obviously, he's not the same defender he was a few years back. And you get some draft picks. So you can
Yeah.
do what you need to do with those draft picks. I think that, you know, Philadelphia will want to believe that they're a contending team now that Harden's gone and Maxey's kind of taking that next step in his development, and you have the MVP. But I don't see it. I think they've added
Yeah.
depth, and you know they've got a solid duo to build around, but it's not this year for them.
Yeah, I think this unleashes Maxey to a certain degree. And I said this in the preseason that, you know, as soon as they trade Harden, I'm guaranteeing you Tyrese Maxey is going to be an all-star. I think it also allows them to get a more well-rounded five out there, meaning that the Anthony Melton, who's your boy, can now start and, you know, actually give them a little bit more of a defensive lift, right? So you don't have to worry about, well, we have to play Maxey and Harden out there, right? So I think that rounds out their team. And like you said, I love the way Maxey plays off of Embiid because he's one of the fastest guys in the NBA. And then Joel Embiid wants to play a little bit slower. So you have, all right, we're all geared up. We're all focused on Joel Embiid. And then all of a sudden, Tyrese Maxey gets an outlet pass and he's down the court in 0.2 seconds going for a layup, or he's pulling up for an open three-pointer because you're worried about where's Joel Embiid. And Joel Embiid might be trailing for an open three, or if they set up in the half court, then they can kind of work that ball through Embiid, where, like you said, Maxey's going to be more satisfied to work off the ball and work through Embiid when it is in that half court, and know that, you know, he can utilize his speed in other ways to play off Embiid. So while they didn't get back, I mean, Batum can play a little bit. Marcus Morris, we'll see. You know, Rocco. They got some depth, which is fine. They're all expiring because I think the Sixers are really big on trying to find somebody, depending on what that free agent class looks like in the offseason. But like you said, they do have room to go ahead and make another move this season for maybe an expiring deal. So I think for the Sixers, addition by subtraction, but they're still clearly in that tier below the Celtics and Bucks. I know the Bucks are still figuring it out. I'm not ready to say the Bucks are, you know, they're struggling a little bit to start the season here, but when you have Dame and Giannis, I'm going to give you more time to go ahead and figure it out and still put Celtics Bucks in one tier in the East. And then right below it, I'd put the Sixers at the head of that class, but it's the Sixers, the Cavs, the Knicks, the Heat. I'd probably cut it off as that second tier is those four teams, and I would put the Sixers probably to the front of that just by the process of having, you know, Joel Embiid. So, you know, I think it opens up for them to make some more moves and to play a little bit, or just to play stress free without all the bullshit that comes with James Harden. And then for the Clippers, you know, we talked about it with the three-man weave the other day. Like, the Clippers were kind of off to an interesting start. I haven't had a chance to check in with them last night. Check with them in this season, excuse me, last night.
They lost in overtime to the
OT.
Lakers.
Yeah, old man LeBron had a little early birthday party and decided to go ahead and get the celebration started. But, you know, I think for the Clippers, you know, we just mentioned it. James Harden, if he just wants to come in and be a facilitator, they have not had anywhere near the playmaker facilitator to work with Kawhi and Paul George and, you know, everything else that they have going on. Like, that could be a great fit, but he doesn't want to fucking do that. And he's a malcontent who, I don't know, it just, you know, disappears in the biggest moments. We've seen it time and time again. It's a big gamble for the Clippers. I get it from a talent perspective. I'm not 100% in on this being a great move for them, but we'll have to see.
Did you see Vince Carter's comments on it on
I did
FanDuel
not.
TV?
What
So
did he
shout
say?
out
What did he
FanDuel
say?
TV. They just followed me on social media, so I'm gonna give them a little bit of props because that's
There
dope.
it is. Come
Um,
holler at your boys.
yo, I'm available if you're paying enough. Jokes aside, Vince Carter was like, "Why rock the boat?" Russ has started this season fantastically. Russ
That's
is
what we
looking,
said too. He's
yeah,
been
Russ
great.
is looking like Russ. You know what I mean? 2 years
He,
with the Lakers,
he's
being
looking
asked to
like Russ that we've all been wanting for like 2 to 3
Washington
years.
Russ. Yeah, he's looking like the Russ
But
that was
not
in
even that,
Washington.
to the point that he's taking smart shots and being efficient. You know what I mean? Like, he's been like 11, 8, and 11 most nights, something to that effect. And when you actually have Paul George and Kawhi, like, that's what you want from this stage of Russell Westbrook. And then a night they need to sit, Russ, go fucking nuts. Go get your
Do
30.
what you
You know
need
what
to
I
do,
mean?
bro. But now you bring in Harden, that's going to be like, well, I want the ball, and you're probably going to give it him because you've just made this trade to bring him in, and now Russ is in the exact same situation he was with the Lakers, and it didn't work then, so it's not going to work now because he's at his best when he's got that freedom. We just spoke about Tatum having freedom, how some players just need that bit of extra freedom. Russ needs he needs a hall pass. Like,
Yeah.
he just needs to be free. Let Russ do Russ things. With Harden there, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for Russ to be on the ball enough to really be
Yeah.
doing what we've seen him do, unless Harden's going to be told to, play off ball. And you want to be a shooter and you want to score, fine, but you're not going to get the ball. You're going to catch and shoot. You're going to drive when you can. And if you don't like it, well, you can hit free agency in the summer and no one's going to pick you up because they all think you're going to leave anyway. And then you can go play with Kemba and Monaco because that's how it's trending.
That might be the next step for James Harden. So we'll have to see how that whole saga plays out. But Adam, this was meant to be a quick hit. We were having a good time. We went definitely a little bit longer than we expected here, man. But it's always a pleasure for the Celtics. They have coming up. They've got a couple of days off here. Coming up on Saturday, they'll take on the Brooklyn Nets. And we and just as like a programming note for Green with Envy, we got a really cool interview that's coming up that hopefully we'll be recording tomorrow and then might drop on YouTube tomorrow as well. And then probably part of the podcast audio feed as part of our Sunday/Monday edition. But as always, make sure that you are locked in, subscribed, all of that at Green MV Pod. Make sure you're following Adam Taylor MBA, and appreciate y'all. We will talk to y'all later. Peace.
Love you.